how did these episodes ever get greenlit? Welcome to MsMojo, and today we're counting down our picks for the top 10 sitcom storylines that would never happen today. For this list, we're looking at sitcom storylines that pushed boundaries further than the format should. Whether it's a case of a series taking on subject matter better left to dramas, subject matter ill-suited to its intended audience, humor at the expense of a minority or marginalized group, or just a case of a show that really should have known better. These are plot lines that would have been shot down in writers' rooms today.
You're a good messenger and a nice kid. I like everything about you except your jokes.
But they're funny!
They're not funny, Frankie.
Number 10. Fear Strikes Back. The Facts of Life.
First prize is 2 tickets to the Bruce Springsteen concert in New York.
This episode starts off simple enough. The girls are going to a Halloween party where the prize is tickets for a sold-out Bruce Springsteen concert. But then the very special episode card gets played with fists of ham.
Yeah, this evening, on her way to her car, a man attacked her.
When Mrs. G tells the girls a woman in town has been raped, they are briefly fazed. But when Natalie is attacked by a stranger, it registers limited sympathy. And instead, characters carry on with easy-to-reach jokes while complaining about how Natalie's trauma affects them.
I've been up almost every night with Natalie this week.
We've all been up with her. Those nightmares of hers are getting worse.
By the end of the episode, it's hard not to feel like the lesson is that Natalie's at fault for not having protected herself. The 80s answer? A self-defense course.
All together now. Hi-ya!
Number 9. Death in a Funny Position. Benson. Well, it's that classic sitcom trope. You know, the one where a newly made friend invites you to a party on his yacht, gets murdered, and hilarity ensues. It's basically a game of Clue meets Murder on the Orient Express, with Benson, the show's resident definitely not a detective, there to solve the whodunit. This story was actually split over 2 episodes, rather than just ending with someone making sure everyone was safe and then calling the Coast Guard or another such logical conclusion. Instead, much of the story involves characters suspecting everyone else, and Benson cracking this thing wide open. Talk about a show taking on more than it can handle. Number 8. Urban Fear, Punky Brewster.
Henry struck again.
Who?
The Northside Stalker.
A child copes with old trauma during a senseless killing spree. Not exactly the standard plotline for a family sitcom. We learn good and early that a killer is prowling the north side of Chicago. A killer who doesn't look anything like David Letterman.
Why, he looks just like David Letterman.
Surrogate father figure Henry ignores the sensationalism to protect Punky, but nonetheless she becomes obsessed with the possibility that Henry will most definitely be murdered.
He's gonna keep killing, isn't he?
Punky, I want you to stop thinking about him.
There are no wacky threats or zany misunderstandings fueling the story either. It's just straight up unshakable fear on Punky's part, which is resolved just in time for the credits by the vague notion of trust.
Well, you take good care of yourself out there.
Don't worry, he will. He's a tough old bird.
Number 7. The one with Chandler's dad. Friends.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the incomparable Helena Handbasket.
Today, the idea of a non-trans actress playing the part of Helena would raise a few eyebrows. But the way the character, Chandler's estranged biological father, is addressed would go well beyond eyebrow-raising. Helena and her son are estranged due to Chandler's embarrassment of her gender identity.
And you look up into the stands, and there's your dad cheering you on, dressed as Carmen Miranda. He's wearing a headdress with real fruit that he will later hand out to your friends as a healthy snack.
He grows to accept it, but the dialogue and framework of the episode treats Helena as something more akin to a gay man or drag artist rather than a trans woman.
Chandler. What an unusual name. You must have had terribly fascinating parents.
Oh, they're a hoot.
For bonus awkward points, Alexis Arquette, who was Courtney Cox's in-law at the time, and who herself later transitioned, cameos in these scenes.
Yeah, I just ordered a beer. You're straight, I get it.
Number 6. Running Zack, Saved by the Bell.
Well, my great-great-great-grandfather was a slave in the Old South.
Oh.
No, that's terrible.
During class presentations on ancestry, we learned that Slater's great-grandfather was a matador. Screech is a 1940s cartoon approximation of an Italian, Lisa is the descendant of slaves, and Jesse of slave traders. But believe it or not, that is not the biggest misstep in this episode. Zack finds an old picture of a Native American man, and thus claims to be one himself, using Screech as a canvas for war paint and stereotypes.
I come from a long line of fierce warriors and great hunters.
When his teacher calls him out on his lack of effort, research, and good taste, Zack is forced to tutor with a genuine First Nations man, Chief Henry, who himself is a canvas for a whole other set of stereotypes. Number 5. The counselor, Mr. Belvedere.
I don't see why I have to go to some stupid day camp anyway.
It's a textbook very special episode. When Wesley, the youngest of the Owen family, is enrolled to day camp, he's not all that into it. But Counselor Perry is totally okay with that, lends him a fancy set of binoculars, and gives him treats. However, after participating in water sports, the counselor takes it upon himself to help Wesley dry off, then drops the pretense.
I'm gonna go change over there.
Wesley withdraws, and only finally opens up to his family when he sees that his friend Kyle is the counselor's next victim.
We just wish you told us as soon as it happened. You know you can always talk to Dad and me.
The topic itself is reasonably well handled, all things considered, but it's far removed from the concept of comedy, and likely wasn't what fans wanted from their evening sitcom.
And that took a lot of guts. Now I'm proud of you.
Thanks. Number 4. For every man, there's 2 women. Too close for comfort. Rape isn't sitcom fodder, but this writer's room tried to tackle it anyway. Monroe, the show's resident confirmed bachelor, is abducted by 2 women and subsequently raped. Rather than sympathy and support, Monroe's story is met with disbelief and police who don't want to investigate it. In addition to a less common scenario, most viewers assumed the character of Monroe was gay. The series lead, Ted Knight, objected strongly to the plot. Rewrites delayed it a season, but the episode ultimately saw the light of day, only to be largely avoided in syndicated rerun packages. Number 3. The Puerto Rican Day, Seinfeld.
No, it's the Puerto Rican Day Parade!
It's very nearly the perfect Seinfeld episode. Except, leaving a Mets game early to beat traffic, the gang's route is blocked by the Puerto Rican Day Parade. When the cast splits up, various forms of mayhem follow, but Kramer's is the most unfortunate. Getting into the spirit of the day, Kramer gets carried away and accidentally lights a Puerto Rican flag on fire with a sparkler.
Hey, there's a guy burning the Puerto Rican flag!
Misreading the situation, passersby are livid, and that outrage was shared by real-life Puerto Rican groups, who were not at all amused by Kramer's takeaway from the riot, nor the episode's portrayal of Puerto Rican people.
Maybe we should stump you, like you stumped the flag.
Number 2. Edith's 50th birthday, All in the Family.
What are you doing here?
I'm making a cake.
While the rest of her family is next door planning her surprise party, Edith busies herself by baking her own birthday cake. That, however, is the end of the silliness. A man claiming to be a detective arrives to warn Edith about a rapist, but it soon becomes apparent that he's referring to himself, and he keeps her terrified until her cake burns and gives her an out.
Ladies, get rid of it. Get rid of it.
Rather than mining the situation somehow for humor, the episode instead looks at the depression the attack leaves Edith with. It's all handled with respect, but it's unlikely a modern sitcom would ever dare to broach such subject matter.
Please don't be scared no more, Rita.
I can't forget that man.
Before we continue, be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos. You have the option to be notified for occasional videos or all of them. If you're on your phone, make sure you go into your settings and switch on notifications. Number 1. The Bicycle Man, Different Strokes.
You know what I like about Mr. Horton? He's just an all-around great guy.
After doing some odd jobs for Mr. Horton, a bike shop proprietor, Arnold and Dudley become friendly with the man, who gives them ice cream and free bike radios. But these visits lose their innocence pretty fast. At a pizza and comics session, Horton slips a porn magazine, wine, and nude photos of himself with boys into the mix. Their final visit involves Boston cream pie, a porno cartoon, and sedatives. Fortunately, this party is crashed by the police. It's among the most infamous Very Special episodes, and one that disturbed cast member Todd Bridges, who had reportedly experienced similar abuse in his youth.
Are you all right?
Yeah, I guess so. But I'm kind of scared.
Do you agree with our picks? Check out this other recent clip from MsMojo, and be sure to subscribe and ring the bell to be notified about our latest videos.